From Wish TV and the All Indiana Podcast Network, this is the News 8 Daily 8 Podcast with Wish TV's Kylie Conway. A Wish TV News 8 update.
Hi, this is Kylie Conway, and this is your News 8 Daily 8 for Tuesday, March 22nd. Wet and breezy Tuesday statewide. The rain could be kind of heavy at times, and there's also a concern with some flooding in certain areas. Not getting much warmer than we started this morning with highs in the 40s. A search is on for whoever shot up a house, wounding 3 people overnight in Indianapolis. The house is on Crosor Road. It's in a neighborhood just east of I-70 and 465 on the east side of the city. Police say the victims are 2 men and a woman, and other people, including small children, were there too. Investigators are trying to figure out if the shooter or shooters fired from a car. Here, police describe the chaotic scene.
It's a careless act when someone opens fire into a residence, having no idea who's inside there. In front of the residence looks like a war zone. There's multiple shots that were fired. The house was hit multiple times. It's absolutely asinine and it's unacceptable. Our agency will do its due diligence to ensure that these people are held accountable for the crime that was committed tonight.
Investigators ask you to call if you know anything that can help them. A man out walking finds someone on the ground shot to death. The scene is a neighborhood near 38th and Emerson. Police say a man was walking down Arlington Boulevard around 11 last night when he spotted the victim. No word yet who that victim was. Police say neighbors haven't reported hearing any gunshots. Governor Holcomb takes action on 2 controversial bills with intense opposition. He vetoed a bill barring transgender girls from girls K through 12 sports. He signed a bill eliminating Indiana's permit requirement to carry handguns in public. Starting with the permitless carry bill, which is now law, Indiana State Police Superintendent Doug Carter had spoken out against it during debates. He said in a statement, "I will work with law enforcement leaders across our state to make necessary changes to firearms enforcement, as well as finding the best way to identify individuals who are not allowed to carry a firearm as defined by Indiana statute." The Indiana Democratic Party's chairman argues most Hoosiers were opposed to permitless carry. Mike Schmoll says, unfortunately, Governor Eric Holcomb decided to put politics ahead of protecting the safety of Hoosier families by signing permitless carry into law. To the second bill now, Governor Holcomb says the transgender girls sports bill falls short of providing a consistent statewide policy for fairness. Indiana Republican Senator Mike Braun shared his disappointment. He tweeted, "Girls' sports should be for girls, and allowing biological males to compete with them robs female athletes of a chance to compete and win." State lawmakers can override that veto. A vote could happen as soon as May 24th when legislative leaders have a one-day meeting. Today, Supreme Court nominee Ketanji Brown Jackson faces questions from senators. It's the second day of the confirmation hearings for the federal judge, who's President Biden's first pick for the high court. If the Senate confirms Jackson, she'll become the first black woman to serve on the high court. Senators spoke for several hours Monday. Then Jackson offered her introductory statement.
"I decide cases from a neutral posture. I evaluate the facts, and I interpret and apply the law to the facts of the case before me without fear or favor, consistent with my judicial oath. I know that my role as a judge is a limited one, that the Constitution empowers me only to decide cases and controversies that are properly presented. And I know that my judicial role is further constrained by careful adherence to precedent."
As a federal judge, Jackson is no stranger to the committee. She's been through 3 previous confirmation hearings. Hundreds of Hoosier Lottery players are in limbo. They all won big on a new instant win game thanks to some kind of glitch in the system. The Hoosier Lottery says that $20 golden jackpot fast play players contacted the player hotline saying that they had matched 3 numbers. That's a $5,000 payout. But the tickets aren't scanning as winners when the players attempt to validate the prize. So after receiving numerous calls to the player hotline and messages over social media, the Hoosier Lottery quickly suspended sales. It announced on Twitter, quote, "We are experiencing an issue with the $20 golden jackpot fast play game. If you have purchased this ticket, please hold on to your ticket. We will share more information on our website when available." That's HoosierLottery.com. The Hoosier Lottery says it is now working with its vendor to figure out what went wrong. Players are now told to hold on to their tickets until the investigation is done. Today, we'll hear from the Colts' new quarterback. The team will formally introduce Matt Ryan at the Colts complex. We're going to carry that news conference live here on Wish TV. The Colts got Ryan in exchange for a third-round draft pick. He has 2 years left on his deal. The Colts will owe him $23.5 million this year, $28 million next. Ryan spent 14 seasons in Atlanta. He led the 2016 Falcons to the Super Bowl and won league MVP that same year. Last night, in Unfiltered, our own Phil Sanchez spoke with local sports expert Derek Schultz about the move.
I think that if you're trying to look at this optimistically, with Ryan turning 37 and clearly his best years, his MVP years being behind him, I think you can look at the Frank Reich factor and the fact that every single quarterback that the Colts have acquired in this span has gotten better within this offense.
How many good years do you think he still has left, Matt Ryan?
I think you look at it, there's 2 years left on the deal. I think you look at it as a 2-year thing.
We will stream the news conference live from the Colts complex at 3 o'clock this afternoon. IT-Mate is investigating a new Indiana housing law aimed at easing the stress on low-income families. The law comes as many cities are seeing more out-of-state investors raising rent prices. Officials say it doesn't prevent out-of-state investors from buying up properties. It rather carves a cap of 5% of places for nonprofits to renovate and make available for low-income families. They say it is especially helpful in neighborhoods like Mapleton Fall Creek, where prices have increased by 20 to 25% in the last 5 years.
Because they were pushed out of that, they would typically have to wait for what we then call the surplus sale, which is properties that didn't sell in the tax lien auction. And so by the time those nonprofits are able to get their hands on these properties for rehab and for conversion to housing, they're so far gone that it's not helpful for them.
Deputy Treasurer of Operations Mickey Rogers says it's kind of like creating a 10th township in Marion County. He went on to say not all nonprofits can qualify. This is only for nonprofits who've had a background and track record experience in creating low to moderate income housing. 2 basketball teams from Indiana are on to the Sweet 16. First, the IU women, who beat Princeton in a squeaker in Bloomington. The free ticket giveaway for students apparently worked. IU says it was the 3rd biggest crowd in program history. Star guard Grace Berger led IU with 15 points. Mackenzie Holmes, fresh off her daybreak debut, poured in 10. The 11th-seeded Tigers nearly pulled off another upset, but the 5th-seeded Hoosiers held them off 56-55. IU plays UConn Saturday. Notre Dame blew past Oklahoma on the Sooners' own court to advance to the Sweet 16 and make NCAA history. Dara Mabry led the Fighting Irish to a stunning 44-point win. It's the first time a men's or women's team has beaten a higher-seeded team by at least 40 points. Notre Dame takes on top-seeded North Carolina State on Saturday in an ACC rematch. And our college basketball coverage is on the road with Purdue. Sports director Anthony Calhoun will be live in Philadelphia with the Boilermakers ahead of their matchup with St. Peter's on Friday. Coverage starts at live on Wish TV at 5 o'clock today. New technology aims to connect foster parents with meaningful resources. A local nonprofit just launched an app to get businesses involved. The app is called Foster Friendly. It's free. There are 95 different businesses across the state on it already to provide foster parents with services like discounts on food and finding the foster children clothing. Lakin McGee reports.
Sunny day. MC Youngblood walks into Hitherto. It's a foster-friendly location. She orders a coffee and sits down with me to talk about the app.
Having those kind of resources at our fingertip is huge.
She's been a foster parent for
about 3 years.
She and her husband have had 7 foster children in their home.
The youngest child we've actually had was a 4-year-old. So we say we reverse parented. We started with 18, then went to 14.
She's having to count on her fingers to remember.
Then we had a 10, 6, and then 4.
She uses the app to find free or discounted clothes for her foster kids. The app launched in February.
Within a week, we had over 700 downloads of users, and then we are now over 800. And that number just keeps growing a little bit more every day.
The idea of this app came from the pandemic when staff with Indiana Kids Belong could not help foster families with what they normally would. The app has
everything from restaurants and family fun to retail and home services.
It's a tool Youngblood says has changed the way she fosters for the better.
I definitely recommend downloading the app just so you can have the resource, at your fingertips.
Again, that was Lakin Miggy reporting. She reports that staff with Indiana Kids Belong are now looking for more businesses to join the app and help the more than 6,000 foster parents in the state. Family and friends are remembering a 15-year-old boy for his love of basketball and as a good example to follow. Deshaun Holloway was a sophomore at George Washington High School. He died in a crash Friday. Holloway's English teacher says he watched him adjust to his new environment over time.
Kind of shy at the beginning part of the school. He just came to George Washington at the beginning of this year and saw him grow throughout the year. I just talked to Mom, and she talked about how he was kind of in a shell, but George Washington opened their arms up to him, and it became a family to him. On the basketball court, you ask him to do something, he'll go and push himself to do better. He did the exact same thing in the classroom, and that reflected in his grades. He slowly came up, pushing himself to become better and pushing his other students around him to become better.
His sister, a senior at the school, was also involved in the crash. She was released from the hospital over the weekend. The FBI is now offering a $10,000 reward to help find a missing Carmel woman. Sierra Breland disappeared in late February. She was last known to be visiting family in Georgia. Her husband, Xavier Breland Jr., reported her missing to police in Carmel, but the FBI says she was in Georgia at that time. Investigators described the husband as a person of interest in the case. He's in jail in Georgia now. Authorities in Indiana arrested him on a warrant from a different case and extradited him back to Georgia. He's facing charges of aggravated stalking, harassing phone calls, and violating a protective order from a woman who is the mother of his child. Some operations are underway again at Walmart's Plainfield warehouse after a massive fire. A Walmart spokesperson says IND2 is functional now. It's a different building housed within that same complex. Walmart also extended disaster benefits for the more than 1,000 displaced employees of IND1. No one was hurt in the fire. It burned for more than 24 hours. Investigators say that it's going to take weeks before they know what caused this. The White House says money is running out to fight COVID-19. It's urging lawmakers to act now. An administrative official says what's left in the American Rescue Plan can vaccinate children under 5 and offer a 4th booster for those at high risk. Other measures are not in the budget. Those include providing more free testing, treatment, and vaccines to combat the virus. The White House says it needs Congress to approve more funding. So far, lawmakers have been unable to agree on ways to do that. Newly released video is showing Russia's missile strike on a shopping mall in Kyiv. Russia released a video as part of it claiming that Ukraine was storing rocket launchers at the building. Ukrainian authorities deny those claims. They say Monday's airstrike killed 8 people. Parts of the country are burning, and satellite images showed the smoke. President Biden spoke Monday with leaders from France, Germany, Italy, and Great Britain.
They underscored their continued support for Ukraine, including by providing security assistance to the brave Ukrainians who are defending their country from Russian aggression, and humanitarian assistance to the millions of Ukrainians who have fled the violence. They also reviewed recent diplomatic efforts in support of Ukraine's effort to reach a ceasefire.
President Biden is traveling to Europe this week for face-to-face meetings with allies. A bipartisan group of senators just returned. They discussed the trip to Germany and Poland with reporters.
The message from all of the Ukrainians we engaged with was that Ukraine will fight to the very last man. They can and they will win this war. Beyond Ukraine's borders, the trip clarified NATO's posture against Putin's unjust and bloody war of aggression. We are united, and it was abundantly clear that if Putin chooses to wage war against a NATO ally, he will rue the day. There will be swift payback.
That was Senator Joni Ernst talking there. She also says that defending freedom in Ukraine means defending freedom everywhere. One of Vladimir Putin's most vocal critics is sentenced to 13 more years in prison. A Russian court found Alexei Navalny guilty of fraud. The Russian government accused him of stealing from his own anti-corruption foundation. Navalny is already in prison for violating probation terms. U.S. intelligence officials have accused Russia's security service of poisoning Navalny. He spent months recovering from the attack. Chinese state media reports no survivors have been found from a plane crash in southeast China. Day 2 of rescue efforts are underway right now. The Boeing 737-800 was carrying 132 people when it crashed yesterday morning. China Eastern Airlines says the aircraft lost contact during the flight and activated emergency procedures. China's transport ministry says the airline has since grounded all of its 737-800s. It's an earlier model of the 737 MAX jet, which was grounded for 2 years after 2 deadly crashes. Millions more people across the country are bracing for storms as those already hit start to dig out. A powerful system stretching from Texas to Minnesota is moving east. Just outside of Dallas, we're seeing several scenes of damage where at least one tornado report came in. Wind was also strong enough to topple semis on the road, rip off rooftops. State leaders say, though, it could have been worse.
We know there are many people whose lives have been completely disrupted and people who've lost their homes. At the very same time, and what I'm about to say may be early and premature, but it may be a miracle also, because even though there's been some devastating physical damage, to my knowledge, as of right now, there is no report of loss of life, which is just stunning.
Overnight, that hopeful note has changed. Grayson County, north of Dallas, is looking into a report of one person killed. The National Weather Service will check out at least 20 tornado reports in Texas. Decatur Township is making history with its first female battalion fire chief. Decatur Township Fire Chief Pascal Lawrence promoted Kelly Key to the position. Key has been with the department for 24 years, 18 of which was spent as an engine company's lieutenant. Key is also in charge of the department's Youth Fire Intervention Program and teaches for the Recruit Academy. Finally, IT Mate is looking into supply chain issues as the price of new cars and trucks keeps soaring. The chip shortage has led to a vehicle shortage, and one manufacturer is trying to problem solve. IT Mate's Richard Essex reports.
Has the chip shortage come to an end? An auto industry analyst tells me that it has not, and it could be later on this summer or maybe even next year before supply does meet demand. And when that does happen, that does not mean that the price of cars will go down. General Motors has made some strides in getting chips for the thousands of trucks the company had stored in Kokomo. The company announced they are in the process of delivering more vehicles. Doug Betts is the president of the automotive division for J.D. Powers, a marketing research firm that analyzes consumer data. He says this is a good sign.
My perception is that GM has managed to sort of capture a lot of chips and try to, catch up on some of these vehicles that have been in storage for the lack of, some part.
Last fall, GM packed a Kokomo parking lot with thousands of trucks missing semiconductor chips. The trucks are manufactured in Fort Wayne and then returned to the factory when the chips become available. GM, at one time, produced electronics, including chips, at a plant in Kokomo. It was the same plant the company used to produce ventilators during the pandemic. Kokomo Mayor Tyler Moore says they can do more.
We've already proven ourselves as a community and GM as a facility to partner with anyone that might be able to.
That says in a good year, 17 million new vehicles are sold in the United States. About 3 million are fleet vehicles bought by rental car companies and companies that provide vehicles to employees. The tight supply has kept companies from renewing their fleets. When the supply does improve, fleet owners are expected to be at the front of the line. The chip shortage is just one issue plaguing the auto industry. The national labor shortage has caused several parts suppliers to reduce their own production, which leads to even further delays in new car production. In Indianapolis, Richard Essex, Wish TV, wishtv.com, and follow us on Facebook.
This has been your News 8 Daily 8 for Wish TV. I'm Kylie Conway. Online at wishtv.com and follow us on Facebook when you search Wish TV.
This is the News 8 Daily 8 podcast with Wish TV's Kylie Conway. A Wish TV News 8 update on demand for even more on demand and on the go. Connect with Wish TV on Facebook at wishtv.com and on the free Wish TV mobile app. Thank you for listening, and be sure to like, subscribe, and follow this podcast for updates every weekday morning on the All Indiana Podcast Network and wherever you get your podcast.